Nathan Cross felt the first spark during a nightmare. Afghanistan. PD. The Humvee rolling. Fire. Screaming. The same dream he'd had every night for 3 years since coming home. He woke up gasping, heart pounding, sweat-soaked sheets. The usual. But this time, something was different. The lamp beside his bed flickered. Not like a power surge. Like something was feeding it energy. Making it brighter. Then dimmer. Then brighter again in sync with Nathan's racing heartbeat. He reached for the lamp to turn it off. The shock hit him like a punch. Blue-white arc of electricity jumping from his fingertips to the metal base. Strong enough to knock him backward. Strong enough to leave a burn mark on his hand. Nathan stared at his palm. At the Lichtenberg figure branching across his skin like a lightning tattoo. He'd just generated electricity. From fear. Nathan spent the next week testing it carefully. He learned the rules fast. The generation was involuntary. When he felt genuine fear, not anxiety, not nervousness, real survival-level fear, his body produced electrical charge. The intensity correlated directly with the level of fear. Small fear meant small charge. Life-threatening fear meant dangerous voltage. The discharge was semi-controllable. He could hold the charge in his body for a few seconds, direct it through his hands. But eventually it had to go somewhere. If he didn't release it, it would arc to the nearest conductor automatically. The maximum output was around 10,000 volts. He tested it once by watching footage of the IED attack. The fear had been overwhelming. The discharge had blown out every light in his apartment and fried his laptop. And the ability came with a cost. Every discharge left him exhausted, drained, like his body was converting not just fear but life force into electricity. Heavy discharges left him barely functional for hours. Nathan told no one, because what would he say? That his PTSD had given him superpowers? That every time he felt scared, he turned into a human battery? They'd commit him, or study him, or both. Nathan Cross was 32 years old, Army veteran, 3 tours in Afghanistan, saw more combat than anyone should, lost more friends than he could count, came home with a Purple Heart and PTSD that the VA said was service-connected but manageable with medication. The medication didn't work. The therapy didn't work. Nothing worked. Nathan lived alone in a studio apartment in Phoenix. Worked nights at a gas station. Avoided crowds. Avoided loud noises. Avoided anything that might trigger the fear response and send electricity arcing through his surroundings. It was a small life. Controlled. Nathan told himself it was temporary. That he'd get better. That the PTSD would fade and the ability would go with it. He was wrong on both counts. The first time Nathan used the ability deliberately was during a robbery. Gas station. 2 a.m. Guy came in with a gun. Demanded cash. Nathan's hands were shaking as he opened the register. Then the fear hit. Real fear. The kind that took him back to Afghanistan. To firefights and explosions and watching people die. Nathan's body lit up like a circuit board. Electricity crackling across his skin. Visible arcs jumping between his fingers. The robber stared. What the fuck? Nathan grabbed his wrist. The discharge was instant. 10,000 volts straight into the man's nervous system. He went down like someone had cut his strings. Unconscious. Smoke rising from his jacket. Nathan stood there, shaking, his body drained, staring at what he'd just done. He'd just tossed someone without a taser. Just weaponized his own fear. The cops arrived. Found the robber unconscious with electrical burns. Found Nathan behind the counter looking shell-shocked. "You okay?" one of the officers asked. "Yeah." He just collapsed. "I don't know what happened." The officer looked at the robber's burns. Looked at Nathan. Didn't push it. "You're lucky. Guy has a history. Armed robbery. Assault. You did good staying calm." Nathan didn't feel calm. He felt like he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Word spread. Not about the electricity. About Nathan being involved in a robbery and the robber mysteriously getting electrocuted. People at the gas station treated him differently. Customers were more polite. Troublemakers went elsewhere. Nobody wanted to mess with the guy who'd somehow shocked an armed robber into unconsciousness. Nathan should have quit. Should have walked away. Should have found work somewhere else where the risk of triggering his fear and his ability was lower. Instead, he stayed. Because the truth was simpler and darker. The ability made him feel powerful. For the first time since Afghanistan, Nathan wasn't just a victim of his own fear. He could use it, control it, turn his biggest weakness into a weapon. It was intoxicating. The pattern repeated over the next 6 months. Another robbery attempt. Nathan discharged. The guy went down. A drunk customer who got aggressive. Nathan touched his shoulder. Small discharge. Just enough to make him back off. A fight in the parking lot that was escalating toward violence. Nathan stepped in. Let a visible arc of electricity jump between his hands. Everyone scattered. He wasn't trying to be a vigilante. Wasn't trying to clean up the neighborhood. But the ability activated every time his fear spiked. And in a gas station at 2 a.m. in a bad part of Phoenix, his fear spiked a lot. His manager noticed. "You've got a gift for de-escalation." Nathan almost laughed. De-escalation? Sure, that's what it was. Not involuntary electrical discharge triggered by PTSD. Just good people skills. "Thanks," he said. "You ever think about security work? You've got the instincts for it." Nathan hadn't, but the idea stuck. Security work meant dealing with threats, which meant fear, which meant the ability would activate regularly. Maybe that wasn't a bad thing. He got a job with a private security company 6 months later. Event security, concerts, sporting events, places where crowds gathered and trouble brewed. The pay was better than the gas station. The hours were more irregular, but the work felt right somehow. Nathan was good at it. Could sense when situations were about to turn bad. Could feel the fear building before violence erupted. And when it did, he had a way of stopping it that didn't involve fists or batons. Just a visible arc of electricity. Just a warning. Just enough to make people think twice. He worked a concert where a fight broke out near the stage. 20 people involved. Escalating fast. Nathan waded in. Let electricity crackle across his hands. Visible. Right. Dangerous. Back off. Now. They backed off. All of them. Nobody wanted to get shocked. His supervisor was impressed. What the hell was that? Static buildup? Something like that. Well, whatever it is, keep doing it. Most effective crowd control I've ever seen. Nathan nodded. Didn't mention that his hands were shaking. That his heart was pounding. That the fear of the crowd turning on him had been real and overwhelming, and the electricity had been his body's automatic response. He wasn't controlling his power. His power was controlling him. The FBI approached him after a year. Agent Wilson. Same recruiter who'd found Derek, Ethan, Marcus, Dylan, Ray, James, and the others. Same pitch. Close call unit. Minimal expressions. Dangerous work. We've been watching you. The electrical discharges. The pattern. You generate electricity when you're afraid. That's rare. Useful. I'm not interested. You're a veteran with PTSD. You're already using your ability in high-stress situations. We're just offering to make it official. Better pay. Better support. Better purpose. My purpose is not getting killed. Then you're in the wrong line of work. Security puts you in harm's way constantly. We'd at least give you backup. Nathan wanted to say no. Wanted to keep his head down. Stay local. Stay safe. But Wilson had a point. He was already putting himself in danger. Already using the ability. Already living with the fear. Maybe it was time to make it count for something bigger. What kind of missions? Nathan asked. Disruption mostly. Power grids. Communications. Electronic security systems. Your ability can disable infrastructure without explosives. That's valuable. You want me to be a human EMP. We want you to be whatever the mission requires. Sometimes that's an EMP. Sometimes it's intimidation. Sometimes it's direct combat. You're versatile. Nathan thought about Afghanistan. About the fear he'd felt every day. About coming home and realizing the fear never left. About turning that fear into something useful instead of something that haunted him. I'm in, Nathan said. The training was different from security work. More technical, more precise. They taught him to control the discharge better, to direct it, to modulate voltage based on target, to work with equipment that could withstand his output. They gave him insulated gloves that allowed him to touch things without discharging accidentally. A specially designed vest that could store small amounts of charge for controlled release later. And they taught him to manage his fear. Not eliminate it, not suppress it, but channel it. Use it strategically instead of letting it control him. Nathan met the other operatives. Ray, who couldn't feel heat. James, who could stop his heart. Others with narrow abilities. All of them broken in small ways. All of them functional in specific circumstances. He fit in immediately, because everyone here understood. They all had abilities triggered by things they couldn't fully control. They all lived with limitations. Nathan wasn't alone anymore. His first mission was a power station in Belarus. Intel suggested it was feeding electricity to a military installation suspected of developing chemical weapons. The goal was to disable it without causing permanent damage. Nathan's job was simple. Get inside. Touch the main transformer. Let his fear do the rest. He infiltrated at night. Scaled the fence. Bypassed guards. Made it to the transformer yard. The fear hit immediately. Not from the mission. From being alone. In hostile territory. Surrounded by enemies. The same fear he'd felt in Afghanistan. Nathan placed his hands on the transformer. Let the electricity flow. 10,000 volts surged out of him. Into the system. Overloading circuits. Blowing breakers. Cascading through the entire grid. The power station went dark. Complete blackout. Every system fried. Nathan collapsed against the transformer. Completely drained. Barely conscious. The extraction team got him out. Mission success. But Nathan spent 2 days in medical afterward. His body had converted so much fear into electricity that he'd nearly given himself a heart attack. You push too hard, the medic said. I was scared. I know, but you can't let the fear run wild. You have to control it or it'll kill you. Nathan knew, but controlling fear when you had PTSD was like controlling breathing. Theoretically possible, practically impossible. He ran 11 missions over the next 18 months. Each one involved fear. Each one involved discharge. Each one left him more drained than the last. He disabled a communications hub in Syria. Fried a security system in North Korea. Took out a power grid in Venezuela during an extraction. Every mission was successful. Every mission took a piece of him. Because the fear wasn't just situational. It was constant. Living in his head. Triggered by everything. Nightmares. Loud noises. Crowds. Memories. And every time the fear spiked, the electricity came. Whether he wanted it to or not. He was burning out. His body couldn't sustain the energy conversion. His mind couldn't handle the constant activation of his worst trauma responses. The breaking point came during a mission in Moscow. Similar to James's mission. But Nathan's target was an electrical grid. His job was to disable it during a diplomatic event to create confusion for an extraction team. He infiltrated the substation. Placed his hands on the main bus. Waited for the fear to hit. It didn't come. Nathan stood there. Hands on bare metal. Trying to feel afraid. Trying to trigger the response. Nothing. His fear response had burned out. Years of constant activation. Years of converting trauma into electricity. His body had finally given up. He tried to think of Afghanistan. Of the IED. Of watching his friends die. Still nothing. Just numbness. Just emptiness where the fear used to live. Nathan had become immune to his own trigger. Which meant his ability was gone. He radioed the team. I can't activate. The response isn't working. Abort. Get out. But Nathan didn't abort. Because if he couldn't use the ability, he was just a regular soldier. And a regular soldier could still complete the mission. He pulled out the explosive charges he'd carried as backup. Planted them on the transformer. Set the timer. Extracted. The explosion took out the grid. Mission success. But Nathan knew the truth. He'd done it without his ability. which meant he didn't need the ability, which meant he wasn't special anymore. He was just a veteran with burned-out PTSD trying to pretend he was still useful. He resigned from the close call unit 3 weeks later. Wilson tried to talk him out of it. Your ability could come back. Sometimes these things are cyclical. It's not coming back. I've been running on fumes for months. My fear response is dead. I can't feel it anymore. That might be a good thing. Living without fear. I'm not living without fear. I'm living without the ability to process fear. It's still there. I just can't feel it. And that's worse. Wilson was quiet for a moment. What will you do? I don't know. Find work that doesn't require me to be terrified constantly. Try to be normal for a while. You were never normal. None of us are. I know, but I'm tired of pretending that's okay. Nathan returned to Phoenix 6 months later. The security company took him back. No questions asked. Just put him back on the rotation. But the work was different now. Without the ability, Nathan was just another security guard. No electric intimidation. No fear-powered deterrence. Just a guy in a uniform trying to prevent problems. He was less effective. Got hurt more. Took longer to de-escalate situations. Had to rely on backup more often. His supervisor noticed. You've lost your edge. Whatever you had before, it's gone. I know. You want to talk about it? Not really. Nathan worked for another year, gradually accepting that he was just normal now. Just another veteran trying to make ends meet. Just another person haunted by things that wouldn't leave. The nightmares continued, but no electricity came with them. Just fear. Pure. Useless. The call came on a random Tuesday. His daughter, from his first marriage, the one that had fallen apart during his second deployment. She was 19 now, college student. They'd been estranged for years. Dad, I need help. Nathan's heart jumped. What's wrong? I'm in trouble. Some guys are following me. I think they're waiting for me to leave campus. I'm scared. The fear hit Nathan like a physical blow. Not his fear. Fear for her. Parental fear. The worst kind. And with it, the electricity came back. Not a spark. A surge. Stronger than he'd felt in years. Like his body had been storing it. Waiting for the right trigger. Nathan looked at his hands. Blue-white arcs dancing between his fingers. Where are you? He asked. The library. ASU campus. But I don't know if I should leave. Stay there. I'm coming. 20 minutes. Nathan drove faster than safe. His hands crackling with electricity the whole way. The fear for his daughter overwhelming every burnout. Every exhaustion. Every limitation. He found her outside the library. 3 guys nearby. Watching her. Waiting. Nathan walked up to her. Placed himself between his daughter and the threat. You okay? He asked. Yeah. Now. The 3 guys started approaching. Nathan turned to face them. Let the electricity become visible. Arcs jumping between his hands. Across his arms. Bright enough to light up the parking lot. Walk away, Nathan said. His voice was calm. The electricity wasn't. They walked away. Nathan turned back to his daughter. She was staring at his hands. Dad, what? Long story. Let's get you home. Nathan Cross is 35 now. 3 years since he left the close call unit. 7 years since the ability manifested. 7 years of generating electricity from fear. The ability came back. Not constantly. Not controllably. Just when his daughter is in danger. When the fear is real. When it matters. He works security still. Normal work. Normal life. Normal fears that don't generate enough electricity to matter. But he stays close to his daughter. Rebuilt that relationship. Made sure she knows she can call him anytime. Because the ability taught him something important. Fear isn't weakness. It's information. It's your body telling you something matters. Something is at risk. Something needs protection. For years, Nathan had tried to control his fear. Tried to use it tactically. Tried to make it useful. But the ability was never about control. It was about response. About what happened when you cared enough to be afraid. He could generate electricity every time he felt fear. but only the right kind of fear. Not the constant PTSD fear. Not the burned-out trauma fear. The protective fear. The fear that meant someone he loved was in danger. That fear still worked. Still generated power. Still turned him into something more than human. He'd spent years thinking the ability was a curse. A symptom of trauma. A reminder that he was broken. Now he understood. The ability was his body's way of protecting what mattered. Of turning vulnerability into strength. He still had nightmares. Still had PTSD. Still struggled with crowds and loud noises and memories that wouldn't fade. But when his daughter needed him, the electricity came back. Focused. Purposeful. Nathan Cross generated electricity every time he felt fear. But only the fear that meant something. And maybe that was the point. Maybe the ability wasn't about being powerful all the time. Maybe it was about being powerful when it mattered. He wasn't a soldier anymore. Wasn't an operative. Wasn't a hero. Just a father with PTSD and an electrical discharge problem that only activated when his kid was in danger. Some abilities save the world. Some save yourself. Some save the people you love. His did the latter. And that was enough.